All right, so just to recap in this case of part two, agriculture revolution. Number one, we talked about enclosures, right? Landowners experiment with more productive seeding and harvest methods to boost crop yields. Number two, we also talked about Jethro Tull. He was one of the first scientific farmers, and again, he basically saw a way that it was inefficient just to sow seeds by scattering them across. And what he did is he invented the seed drill. So that allowed farmers to sow seeds in well-spaced rows. The last thing I want to mention is the process of crop rotation. So crop rotation proved to be one of the best developments of the scientific farmers. The process improved upon older methods of crop rotation. So back in the Middle Ages, farmers had used something called the three-field system. So one year, for example, a farmer might plant a field of wheat, but that will exhaust or basically take all the vitamins and the nutrients out of the soil. The next year, he planted a root crop, so something like turnips, and with a root crop, it actually restores a lot of the nutrients back in the soil. So this might be followed by, in turn, by barley and then by clover. So every single season, every single year, you're rotating the crops. You're making sure if you just keep planting the same crop over and over, it's going to suck out all the good stuff in the soil. So the soil needs to be rich, it needs to be vitamin infused, and have all that good stuff. So the method was just recycling in a way which has allowed the soil to recharge. And one of the things, of course, when you plant one field that has clover or just simply grass, that's another way you can actually have your animals graze over the clover or the barley. And when the animals graze over there, they're actually, again, depositing their own waste, fertilizer, and that's also going to help the soil recharge. So it's all of these things that are helping improve agriculture. I could also add, we see the improvement of livestock breeding. So the fact we have more efficient ways to make sure we breed things like sheep and different animals. So when we really look at that, as the food supplies increased and living conditions improved, England's population mushroomed. An increasing population boosted the demand for food. And then we start seeing again the fact that more food, more people, and we have that labor source to fuel the Industrial Revolution. So in addition to the large population of workers, the small island country of England also had extensive natural resources. So let's talk a little bit about the geography of England in that case. So number one, natural resources included water power and coal to fuel the new machines. We start looking at the different textile machines. If we're looking at coal, which is a rock that can be burned as a power source. But the first early machines when we see in the textile revolution actually are fueled by water. So the whole concept, right? If you push water, which could be coming from a river, and you basically push it through a wheel and the wheel will turn and a mechanization will turn the lever and you can see the machines start to be powered by water. So a lot of our first factories that we're going to look at, they actually develop near rivers and water sources. We also see that Great Britain also has access to iron ore. So iron ore is a material that can be used to construct for machines, tools, and different buildings that we see developing. We see rivers. So not only do rivers provide a source of power, but also rivers provide transportation. So transportation is huge if we're trying to ship people, if we're trying to ship and transport goods and different products. And then we also see that the geography of England has many harbors. So harbors are basically areas in which, again, a ship can cruise up, and that's where the merchant ships can set sail. So we're talking about, England having the advantage to load manufactured products and sail them across back to mainland Europe or again across the Atlantic, right? Or if they're trying to trade or import natural resources from the Americas. So for example, think back to your 8th grade history. And you talked about, of course, the American South and the Civil War. And, the American South with the plantations had a huge source of cotton. Now, there's a huge demand for cotton because we also see that correlation between, again, when England's industrial textile factories are demanding that early on. So basically importing cotton from the New World and bringing that to the factories to be manufactured in some sort of clothing or textile. So you can see already geography is huge in terms of access to natural resources, transportation, and all those different goods that will aid industrial revolution. All right, so last but not least, let's just take a look at this graphic. And this might be a good one to copy down as a graphic organizer in your notebook for this first portion of why England is to industrialize first. So when Britain takes the lead in this case, number one, we said population growth, which is on the top left hand. Talked about why there's population growth due to the fact that we see an increase from food due to the agricultural revolution. We see an increase of demand for goods because we do have an increase in population. Government support of economic growth, right? Government is stable, government is supporting entrepreneurship, government is supporting banking, which again provide a capital source for companies to open. We also will talk about in the next lecture the rise of the textile inventions. So the first area that we see industrialization occurring is the textile industry. The development of factories, and then also resources. So going back to, again, the geography, the natural resources, iron, access to water, coal, all those are essential. So you can see on the right, we have, for example, lower prices. So we see increase of production, right? Changing, shifting, making things by hand, which is very labor intensive. When now we can do the work at a more efficient rate and less human capital is required, we see lower prices for consumers, people that are purchasing. We see an increased supply of goods due to the technology and new machines. Wave of economic and social changes, which we'll definitely be taking a look at, okay, how this affects the people, whether it's positive and negative changes. Transportation revolution, when we talk about, and you'll start reading in your textbook, looking at things like the steam engine, which is going to change for the steamboat. And also we'll see the railroad or the steam locomotive. Higher demand for goods and more consumers. So when you come across the word consumer, I want you to think, of course, the people that are purchasing or actually using the products that are created out of the Industrial Revolution. All right, so that's just a quick little intro in that case, just talking about some reasons why England is first to industrialize. And then we'll start digging a little bit deeper about how this is actually going to affect this dramatic change, this industrial revolution. All right, thanks, historians.